Nice to meet you, comrade. What's your name? Now, where are you from?
Yeah, my name's Alex Carlin. I'm an American guy living in Moscow, Russia right now.
Okay, good to have you here. So I'm aware you've been to some African countries in West Africa.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Africa, mainly in Benin, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana. A lot in Ghana. And actually, I'm playing with a band from Abidjan. That we have this Africa Climate Band called the Africa Climate Band. Yeah.
So this is COP29 and Africa is burning. What can you say about that?
Well, I mean, Africa to me is so central and so important. And I'll explain it. It's part of what I now understand was if we're going to actually solve problems, it's going to come from Africa. And I'll explain why. Because right now, the solution that everybody talks about at all these conferences is called emissions reduction. They go so far as to say it's the only solution, and that's complete nonsense because it was something that could have been a solution about 45 years ago when we didn't have so much CO2 in the atmosphere. But now, if you had a magic wand and all the cars went away, all the oil companies went away, no emissions, we'd still have so much CO2 in the atmosphere that we'd be facing the exact same death sentence for animals and people and lifestyles, and the farms not able to produce food, too hot for farms to make food, too hot for people to work outside. That's what we're facing in the near future. And the other thing people never talk about is the acid in the ocean is such a bad problem right now. It's nothing to do with heat, it's just acid that the CO2 and the H2O combine for an acidic molecule called carbonic acid, and that needs to be dealt with. But I wouldn't talk about this if I didn't have a solution. I wouldn't waste your time, I wouldn't waste my time. It turns out, after coming to so many COPs and interviewing so many people and learning so much, actually it was through COPs. I have big respect for COPs because through the COPs I learned that there is a road, that we do still have a road to a good outcome. And it's all based on plankton and oceans and natural things. But it has to do with photosynthesis. When you bring plankton back to their natural, normal level of health and numbers and populations like they were before industrialization, let's say 100 years, you bring them back to their normal level, you get so much photosynthesis that we will bring down that CO2 out of the atmosphere to a point by 2050 even, that fast, we could be back to a normal safe level of greenhouse effect. That's our goal. But this idea that you can do that with emissions reduction is absolutely senseless with no logic at all. Can't possibly work. It's completely ridiculous, right? But yet, so that's the old paradigm, and it's slowly going away. People are telling me, even this year, that it's going way faster than I might think. But the new paradigm needs to take its place. And the new paradigm is nature restoration, ocean restoration, and mainly plankton restoration, which is easy to do. We call it 100 villages. 100 villages around the planet. And based in Africa, we think first in Ghana's doing it, it's gonna happen, where fishing villages, they can go out in boats, they study it, they do it carefully, but they find out where the plankton live in ecosystems underwater. We call them ocean pastures. It's like, they're like an Amazon, but they're underwater. And they need a little bit of nutrition, tiny amounts, parts per trillion of nutrition that we have deprived them as humans, which I can explain later how that happened, but it was just sort of accidental. But that's why the plankton are down, and that's why the fish are down. The plankton are the base of the food chain. The reason why there's no tuna and no salmon, these big fish are not there, 90% down. People blame the evil Japanese or Chinese coming around with boats and scooping up. That's not the real problem. The real problem is the plankton is gone. It's the base of the food chain. We've done this. When you bring it back, all the fish come back, the birds come back, the whales come back. There's food, yay! It's a beautiful thing, And it's also photosynthesis. When you have that much plankton, it takes it out. And here's the big thing with the acid. The plankton acts as a strong force. It actually when the plankton are at their normal level, you don't get that acid molecule. The H2O and the CO2 do not form that acid molecule anymore, and it's really important. And there's nothing else that comes close to that. So it's sort of a miracle, sort of a coincidence that I find it hard to believe myself, but that the same answer for the global warming is the answer for the acid. It's ridiculous. Like, it couldn't be that easy, but it seems to be. that simple. And so that's why we've developed a campaign.
Yeah.
And we think it's African Union knows about it, by the way. They sponsored an event about it. You know, it's not unknown, but it's slow, right? The paradigm is slow, but we're trying to push it with music. Like, we think that we need a new "We Are the World, We're the Children," and I happened to have written it 2 years ago by osmosis, you know, by improvisation in COP. I have big respect for COP. At the COP 2 years ago in Egypt, there I was with my guitar, and I'll play you the song, and this song is really catchy, and we're going to get African stars, like, you know, We Are the World had stars like Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, right? But we're going to have African stars, you know, Nigerian stars, where we're going to have, or maybe, you know, Baba Maal from Senegal, or Alpha Blondy we're going to ask from Cote d'Ivoire. We're going to get enough stars to sing with us on the beach in Ghana, film it, put it out all over Africa, and make it like this viral hit thing, because it is a good song, and it's talking about something important. And we're gonna, when that video becomes really known, everybody knows it and singing it, we're gonna have this tour, not just of those 4 French West African countries, but every country we can get to in Africa, and in stadiums, and we're gonna have, you know, a famous thing. And with that kind of, you know, that kind of energy and momentum for a movement, we're going to have people in the streets. We're going to do demonstrations. You know, millions of Africans demanding we do this thing, because if we don't, we're going to have a nightmare. You know, and so.